Sometimes an actor or actress shows up on set without doing much preparation and somehow makes a role work. Then there are those who put so much time and effort into bringing a role to life on screen, they live as the character they are portraying. This level of effort doesn't often go unnoticed, especially when it comes at the cost of a dangerous amount of weight gain or loss, but there are plenty of things actors have done to make their roles particularly special, but hardly anyone ever noticed. Especially you. How dare you? Anyway, I'm Ewan from What Culture, and here are 10 actors who put insane effort into details nobody noticed.
Hello YouTube, we're turning things up to 11 with the launch of What Culture Music.
It's our brand new channel featuring all those lists you just can't get enough of, including creepy hidden messages in your favourite pop songs,
as well as radio-friendly songs that detail literal murder. That's as well as Chatty Faces, where we get personal with you on our sordid musical tastes, in-depth discussion podcasts, and we're even doing quality fun stuff like tournaments and quizzes too.
There's going to be something for everybody, so come on over and make some sweet music with us.
Or just watch the videos, that works too.
Like, share and subscribe at the link below, and we will see you there.
Bye.
Number 10, Robert Patrick found a way to keep his eyes open in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Robert Patrick's T-1000 is one of the best portrayals of a robotic assassin ever put to screen. Granted, I can't think of any others, but still, the level of detail the actor put into the role is even more impressive than you may know. Now, if you go back and watch the film, you'll notice what you're about to hear, but odds are you didn't notice it before. Whenever the T-1000 fires a weapon, it doesn't blink. This is completely unnatural, and as anyone who has fired a gun will tell you, the natural response our body has to pulling the trigger is to blink. Not blinking is incredibly difficult, and like sneezing, it's just one of those things our bodies do, but the person can train themselves to keep their eyes open. That's exactly what Robert Patrick did. He trained for months to fire a weapon without even blinking, and hardly anyone even noticed. That being said, had he blinked when he fired a weapon, it would have been entirely noticeable. Arnold got to wear shades to avoid the problem, but the T-1000 didn't put anything on his face. Had he blinked, it would have been strange. After all, why would a robot made of liquid metal blink when it fired a gun? Insane dedication to the craft. Number 9, Rooney Mara pierced the crap out of herself with the girl with the dragon tattoo. One of the best things about being an actor is that you don't have to do much modification to yourself to make a given role work. Tattoos and piercings can all be added via the impressive skills of the makeup and costume departments. That doesn't mean some actors don't go the extra mile for a given role. For the girl with the dragon tattoo, Rooney Mara could have easily sat in a chair and let the people responsible for making her look like Elizabeth Salander without being too invasive, but that wasn't going to cut it for the actress. To prepare for the role, she went ahead and pierced her body in the same way the character had them, 12 piercings in her face and nips. These could have all easily been added and made to look real, but she went through with it even though nobody watching the movie could have told whether the piercings were real or not. She also bleached her eyebrows, cut off most of her hair, dropped some weight, and learned to ride a motorcycle, kick butt thanks to some martial arts training, and ride a skateboard. Now that's a training montage I wish I could see. Number 8, Ryan Gosling helped build the set for The Notebook. Ryan Gosling is a professional when it comes to portraying someone on film, but he's taken this a step further than most would ever consider. For his role as Noah Calhoun in The Notebook, he decided the best way to portray a fellow in 1940 South Carolina was to actually move there. Gosling moved to Charleston, where he resided for about 2 months. During that time, he rode the Ashley River, and while these are interesting steps to preparing for a role, they aren't all that strange or unusual, though nobody watching the film would have known about it in the first place. The thing he did to prepare for the role, which amounts to an insane amount of effort, has to do with furniture. He learned to make wooden furniture, and he did it so well, his work was put into the movie itself. The dining room table featured in the film was created by Gosling, and he ended up making several pieces, all so he could better understand his character. Number 7, Johnny Depp learned an entire language for his role in Platoon. Johnny Depp was barely into his film career when he played Lerner in Oliver Stone's Platoon. It was only his 3rd film credit, but even then, the actor was putting everything he possibly could into his performance. You may be aware that all the actors were put through a form of boot camp to prepare for their roles as soldiers, but that's not the level of preparation we're talking about here. Depp's role required that he speak a few phrases in Vietnamese, and to make sure he got it right, he learned to speak the language. Honestly, Depp decided the best way to make the role work was to actually learn to speak Vietnamese, and he became almost completely fluent after several months. Ultimately, his role was cut down significantly, and he barely uttered anything in Vietnamese compared to what he had planned. Despite this, he put more work into pretending to be able to speak a language than most actors would ever dare, and the audience never knew anything about it. Number 6, Jamie FOXX tried out life as a blind man for his work on Ray. Jamie FOXX had one of his most lauded performances ever as the titular Ray Charles in 2004's Ray. He even went on to earn an Academy Award for his performance in the film, and it may have been due to the intense amount of preparation and dedication he put into playing a blind man. Some actors will train in a wheelchair to portray a wheelchair user, and some will walk with a cane if their character requires one. When it comes to being blind, they might try getting around without opening their eyes, but when it comes to FOXX, he glued prosthetic eyelids over his own to force blindness upon himself. That's the type of detail you wouldn't notice for a variety of reasons. The eyelids weren't noticeable, but more than that, he wore shades throughout most of the film anyway. Number 5. Margot Robbie held her breath for an unreasonably long time in Suicide Squad. Despite being a lackluster film in terms of, well, pretty much everything really, Suicide Squad had a number of good things going for it. One of the biggest assets the film had in its toolbox was Margot Robbie, who gave an outstanding performance as Harley Quinn. In the film, there's a single scene where she and the Joker are in a car crash, which results in the psychotic former therapist winding up submerged in water. In the scene, which didn't take up more than a minute or two of screen time, Robbie had to perform underwater. Now, this is always dangerous, but there are safety measures put in place on set, including scuba divers who are just off camera with air supplies ready and waiting. Despite this, Robbie prepared for the role by learning to hold her breath for 5 minutes. That's an impressive feat for anyone, and it was also completely unnecessary. There are a number of ways the camera could have shot that scene which wouldn't have required an unnatural length of time for her to hold her breath, but she insisted. She even had a running challenge with her stunt double, Ingrid Klenig, to see who could hold their breath the longest. When Klenig managed 5 minutes 30 seconds underwater, Robbie set out to beat that record, but the director told her to stop, and that it wasn't necessary. Number 4. Sigourney Weaver figured out how to talk to her co-stars in Gorillas in the Mist. Sigourney Weaver portrayed the naturalist Diane Fossey in 1998's Gorillas in the Mist, and if you've seen the movie, you know how much work she put into portraying her character. But even then, it's probable you don't know how devoted she was to perfecting her role. The movie features real mountain gorillas, which meant that Weaver had to do some of the same kind of work the actual Diane did. She had to earn the gorillas' acceptance. This was done in much the same way it was depicted in the film, but for the most part, Weaver was protected and didn't have to engage with real gorillas too closely. That being said, she did do a number of close-up scenes with real gorillas, and in order to make that work, she had to learn to communicate with them. Gorillas respect their own, and even though we don't look like them, an ability to mimic their sounds and movements goes a long way towards earning their acceptance. To make this happen, Weaver learned the proper guttural sounds and rolling belching noises needed to talk to the gorillas. This means she effectively learned to communicate with them, and that could have been faked or emulated via movie magic, but Weaver went all the way in her portrayal, and the audience couldn't tell the level of work she put in for that role. Number 3. Robert Downey Jr. proved he wasn't right-handed to portray Chaplin. Robert Downey Jr. is a consummate professional, and he's always been the kind of actor who puts his everything into a given role. When it came time for him to portray silent movie star and director Charlie Chaplin in his eponymous film, he gave one of his best performances ever. The one thing he did that hardly anyone in their right mind would ever notice had to do with the way Charlie Chaplin played tennis. As it happens, Chaplin held the racket in his left hand, but RDJ learned the game while playing with his right dominant hand. To become Chaplin, and for only a very small part in the film, the actor spent months learning to play tennis with his left hand. He also learned to play the violin with that very same hand. This is something nobody watching the movie would have noticed. There wasn't a critic alive in 1992 who would have cried foul at seeing Chaplin play tennis in one scene with his right hand, but RDJ didn't care. He wanted his performance to be as close to real life as he could, and that's exactly what he delivered. Number 2. Saoirse Ronan mastered the piano for her role in Byzantium. When it comes to portraying someone who has a skill an actor lacks, this can usually be faked relatively easily so long as the performer can mimic hand movements and make it look real. For something like playing the piano, shooting the actor and then cutting to someone else's hands often works perfectly. Now, most actors are fine with doing just that, but for Saoirse Ronan's role in Byzantium, she wasn't about to let someone else perform in her place. In one scene, she walks up to a piano, sits down, and begins playing Beethoven's Piano Sonata Opus 2 No. 3. This was something she didn't know how to do in any way prior to accepting the role, and it took her only 12 weeks to learn. Not only is that really impressive, it's ridiculously impressive given the difficulty in mastering the piece. Number 1. Shia LaBeouf transformed his entire life to become his character in Fury. Shia LaBeouf is a relatively, well, strange actor, and he's garnered quite a bit of speculation over the years as to his behavior when he's not working. But nobody can say the guy doesn't put his all into a role. For his part in Fury, LaBeouf did something most Americans never do. He joined the military. The day after he was given the role, and seemingly practicing the mantra of not letting your dreams be dreams, he joined the US National Guard, got himself baptized, had himself tattooed, and even became a chaplain's assistant to Captain Yates of the 41st Infantry. He stopped bathing and pulled out one of his own teeth. He basically turned himself into his role, in what I can only imagine is trademark Shia fashion. And that was our list. Know of any other actors who took their performances to the next level? Please shout them out in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. As always, I've been Ewan. Catch me on Twitter at EwanRuinsThings, and I'll see you next time. Bye!